I got a feeling I'm about to get put on. I got a feeling that something finna take off. I got a feeling, and it won't be too much longer. Got a feeling coming up on.
Like we always do about this time, I am Cornbread Capone. This is Unpopular Honesty, the home of brutal honesty and real hip hop music. Today, my special guest is Pell Orchard alumni.
Yes, sir.
He's also Westbrook alumni,
Yes, sir.
and also musically a part of that royalty, that extension of music legacy that extends from Beaumont. He's a part of that as well. If you don't know who I'm talking about my boy Tim, man. It's good to have you on here. I have not talked to you in so long,
I
and
know.
it's overdue. Man. Oh, first of
Yeah,
all, before we even get started, I want to ask you, how are you doing?
man. I'm blessed beyond measure, man. I can't be more grateful to be standing here before you today, man. Being the man I am today, man, to be able to say, "Hey, man, it's great to see you." It's been a long, long, long time. Long
Man,
time. I can't tell you how happy I am right now just to be on here with you, brother.
for real, man. We gotta talk about the R&B podcast that you have, because I thought that
Mm,
that was very interesting,
yeah.
because I
Hmm.
have talked to people about R&B all the time. And
Hmm.
man, just mainly it's just the same conversation regurgitated or remixed in a different way.
Definitely.
Um, what made you start an R&B podcast?
Well, all right. Well, full disclosure, um, just to give you a full ramification how it came about. Shortly after my stint in the Navy, I moved to San Diego, California. Well, me and my wife and my firstborn, who we just had time, were posted up out there, and I started getting into the music scene in San Diego, California. Things of that nature. Uh, I also met a couple of guys out there who are lifelong friends that I'm still tied in with to this day. Kurt Quinn and Mr. Keon McCrae, aka On Key, and they both met them both in San Diego. And what we used to do all the time, between us gigging or record music and just sharing our thoughts and just really tapping in with each other as far as R&B music goes. We used to just get around and do what we call R&B nerd talk. If you ever watch my podcast, you hear us say that a lot. But out of those discussions, we used to always say, like, it'd be good if people on greater platforms were having these same conversations. Now, some years passed and we separated for whatever reason. I moved back to Texas for a little bit. They still stayed out there. But throughout those years or whatever, I want to say maybe 3 or 4 years later, we finally came up with an idea for a playlist. And this is back when playlists started to go really start to pop off and get popular. It was like, well, why don't we put together an R&B playlist or whatever? Amongst the three of us, like we pretty much know R&B. We pretty much keep up with R&B and stuff all the time. Why don't we put together a playlist? And with that playlist birthed the Vibes and Convo playlist, which is actually how our old podcast even started. It was all based off this playlist that we started curating. Over time, it became just us adding music and just keeping people informed about the R&B music and R&B news that we were running across. And it quickly evolved into us doing interviews and doing performance breakdowns, things of that nature. Next thing you know, maybe about a year and a half later, we had a whole show. And I can honestly say we've been at it for the past 4.5, going on 5 years now, man.
That's good, man. Well, I do want to tell you this. You'll be happy to know that that lineage of R&B from Beaumont continues, because I
Uh,
personally know three people,
yes.
two guys and one girl,
Uh-huh.
who are R&B artists, who are from Beaumont, who are
Okay.
active, who are actively putting out music. Two of the guys, one of the guys, his name is Caleb Evans. He lives in Dallas. We've already
Okay.
done some. we've already done some music together, and we're
All
doing
right.
more. And the
Yeah.
other guy, we're doing a project together. So
All
you'll
right.
hear probably
Yeah.
within the 6 to
Hey,
8
hey,
months.
you know me. I'm easy, man. Tap in with me, bro. I love to put them on our platform. Whatever I can do to help and contribute, man. Because I already
Well,
know where we come
well,
from. We got so much talent, man. It's crazy.
and it's still coming from out here because
Mhm.
even the younger generation, I'm watching the young generation, their talent is better. It's almost like if you get in your car and you ride
Yeah.
around Beaumont and you turn every corner, it's literally almost like that to that point.
Yeah. Yes,
Or
sir.
in terms of talent. Now, I do want to ask this about R&B. How do you feel about the state of R&B as it stands right now in 2024?
Well, as it stands right now, I actually think R&B is starting to come in a better place than where it's been in the past. I'll say the past 5 years. And if you're really paying attention, like me and my guy pay attention, R&B is actually starting to make quite the resurgence right now. With the release of Tyrese's new Beautiful Pain album, if you haven't listened to it yet, I encourage you to do so. You've never heard Tyrese like this a day in your life until now. Um, not to mention a lot of up and coming artists who are doing a lot more traditional soulful R&B, like what we grew up on, like in the golden age of R&B in the '80s, late '80s, early '90s, on through the 2000s and stuff. That sound is starting to become more prevalent now. So believe it or not, I'm kind of happy about the state of R&B right now. But there was a point about 5 years ago, I was like, it's looking kind of bleak right now. I don't know if we're going to weather this storm. Like we sound too much like rappers. We're not singing for real anymore. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, I could go down that rabbit hole all day long, but I know you feel where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I mean, I said it myself. I said that at some point, both of those genres kind of uh lost their identities because rap
Hmm.
lost its identity when once people started singing and people started considering that to be rap. And then I had
Exactly.
to realize, wait a minute, they're not singing because they're not hitting notes.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
Somebody
Just
from the
model.
R&B and somebody from the R&B world had to tell me that. They was like, wait a minute, don't singers hit notes? He was like, well,
Exactly.
he was like, now name the rappers that sing. And I can name you about
Exactly.
10 of them at one point, and none of them hit high notes. So I'm like, oh, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Well, it's
that's
got
pretty
to be,
accurate. Yeah, that's pretty
hey,
accurate. Even if they're not hitting the high notes, like you gotta do more than just two notes the entire. Like, come on, there's gotta be some variation in there.
right. Like, you said something interesting. What is R&B's golden era? Because I'm aware of what hip hop's golden era was and
uh,
is, but I never really knew what
mhm.
is R&B's golden era. What
Okay.
what what
Well, I could.
what years was that?
Yeah, well, I can definitely tell you because I was grateful enough to live through it and see it with my own eyes. Actually, it was a transitional period coming out of the '80s, going into the '90s, all the way up until like '99. That's considered the golden era of R&B music. And the only reason they consider it the golden era of R&B music, R&B has never been more profitable and more mainstream than it was during that time. Just R&B music by itself. Like you gotta remember, like early, like mid to late '80s, R&B music was like at the forefront, all award shows, on every commercial, like on Sesame Street. Like like R&B music was quite the force back then. I got a chance to witness it and see it myself, but I also got a chance to witness and see the decline also, and that mostly came like going into the late '90s, going into the 2000s. That's when the lines really started to blur. Then and
Okay,
R&B music, as we knew it, was starting to go more towards starting to take a back seat to what hip hop was coming
okay. And I can agree with it because I saw that too, and I was like, I don't know about that. Even
with.
looking at both sides, because
Hmm.
then you get at some point you can't rap yourself to death. You're gonna have to play a R&B, and then R&B that sounds just like the rap, and it's like, well, what was the
Uh-huh.
point of that? But
Most. Hmm.
yeah,
But I will. But I will to add to that point. Not to flex or nothing like that, but I did predict that this was going to happen back when Jodeci first came out back in the day. Like
Wow.
that they were so extreme during that time as far as mixing R&B and hip hop. Jodeci was considered the extreme measure of what that merge was. But I said it then. I was like, if that's what they're doing, watch. Before you know it, you're gonna have rappers singing. You're gonna have singers really rapping. Like it's gonna. And sure enough, 7 to 8 years later,
Wow. You
yeah,
might have
I remember seeing that trend.
you might
Yes,
have
sir.
called that.
Yes,
I
sir.
want to say something about the I think I think I witnessed a little bit of the R&B's golden era myself because
Why is you running in the grass with no shoes on and it's poop in the grass?
Yeah,
during the late 80s, early 90s, they had a show on BET called Midnight Love. And
talk
Midnight
about
Love it would play all the slow jams.
it. Yes, they
I
did.
would always watch it. And that's how I, kind of stay up on my slow jams. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that was essential in the golden era of R&B as far as visuals are concerned.
Definitely
Uh,
was. You right on point.
man, I'm gonna say this too because I do say this, and I don't know how people gonna feel about it, but R&B has been suffering
Yes, it
without
has.
contribution of R. Kelly.
Yes, it
You
has.
know,
Go speak
because
on it.
because because he wasn't just making records for himself; he
Mm-mm.
was making records for other people. The Maxwell,
Yes,
the Celine
yes.
Dions, the
Speak
I
on it,
mean,
Cornbread. Speak on
hey,
it.
I know. So I read the
Yes.
credit. I'm like,
Thank you.
whoa. I'm
Hey,
like, ooh, hey man, like I'm
hey.
sorry, bro. Like,
There's a reason why Tyrese on a recent interview still names Arcade the king of R&B, and I believe it at that.
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna leave it at that too. I want to ask you. Do you have a top 10 best R&B vocalists or groups? Because I know
Mm-hmm.
it's some groups that is always going to be mentioned and always going to
Oh
be
yeah.
talked about, and it's
Uh huh.
also solo
Oh yeah.
vocalists going to be mentioned
Uh huh.
and talked about. So,
Oh yeah.
does Tim have a top 10
Oh,
best R?
I definitely have a top 10, and I'm not scared to spit it, even though it changes from day to day, depending on what kind of mood I'm in. And it doesn't help that I know so much doggone music. God, dog. Like it's always hard to put together top 10, but I got one for you. I'll get one for you. Off the rip, and the only reason I'm starting with his name is because I've been talking about him so much recently, and coincidentally enough, he does have a documentary that's finally coming out November 1st. If you guys haven't guessed it, I'm going to start with Luther Vandross. First and foremost, Luther Vandross. Yes. Still in my eyes, he's still a staple in my eyes. Somebody that I grew up on and that I could never get away from. Definitely in my DNA. So I'm gonna start with Luther Vandross. Uh, as far as vocalists go, I'm gonna go into Philip Perry. You got to be in the jazz R&B world to really kind of remember who Philip Perry is. But if you're a fan of Luther Vandross, you'll know who Philip Perry is. Uh, on as far as vocalists go, I'm gonna dip into a little gospel also. I'm gonna say Daryl Coley. As far as vocals go, well, somebody that I really studied growing up. And to go back into R&B, let's go whew, vocalists. Now I'm gonna start naming groups now. Let's go Boys to Men. But gotta mention Boys to Men. Can't never not mention Boys to Men. I'm gonna definitely say Jodeci. Jodeci helped me tap into that man part of
Yeah.
I like to call that grown man singing. They helped me tap into that early, what that was at an early age. Okay. To me and Jodeci, I can't, and if I bring up Boys to Me and Jodeci, I can't forget Drew Hill. Can't
Right.
forget Drew Hill. Can't forget Drew Hill.
It's one
Uh,
group that people just do not mention, and they got the jams, but people don't mention them when they mention they list.
mm, I, I hope you don't
H
think. I
Town.
hope you don't think it's H Town.
They don't mention H Town,
Oh,
and
and
they
see, I was
should.
just about to mention H Town. Rest in peace, Dino. And to this day, I campaign for people, and I tell people all the time, y'all had yet to see what Dino was about to bring to the world. Y'all never got the best. The world never got the best of them, or better yet, they never got the best of that group.
Wow.
I'll put it to you like that. They didn't, and that's a tragedy that I hope somebody goes back and does a documentary on one day, because that story needs to be told also. Not just H Town the group, but Dino and his family. That family of vocalists. Oh my God!
Do you
Talk about
do you watch that show? It's a show on TV One called Unsung.
yes, I do. Yes, I
Man, and
do.
they started off with like all the older groups like the Temptations, Four Tops, and then they
Hmm.
came up to the 70s, and then they came up to the 80s with the
Yeah.
R&B. And
Yep.
now it's R&B and rap. You watch one, it might be
Yeah.
R&B, and the next be a rapper.
Hmm.
I
Yep.
love them
But
shows, but I
I
always
love
wonder
them
why
too.
it's time.
Yeah. I think with certain groups, it's going to take longer for them to do, or it's hard for them to do right now on the information that's available. You got to understand, there's a lot of people that ain't here to tell their story. It's a lot of people, or a lot of people that aren't here to tell those stories yet. So much was changing and happening during the '90s that people weren't even thinking about even documenting a lot of stuff or keeping up with the way that we're minded that way now. So
Yeah.
it's the great groups that fell by the wayside through those eras that were probably real impactful during that time. But if you wasn't there to live it or see it firsthand or whatever, like nobody really knows nowadays. So I think that's an element to it as well.
I want to ask you this. If
Hmm.
somebody asked you to DJ a 80s party for them, what
Ooh.
type of R&B would you play?
Oh man, I'm playing a whole lot of Freddie Jackson, Shaka Khan, Donna Summer. Like, man, you're gonna think it's probably like Hebert class of '82 in that bad boy. By the time I get done, but mind you, with all those names I just mentioned and from that era, it's not going to sound too far-fetched, far from what's current right now, because a lot of what's current right now is sampling stuff from that same time period. Yeah, stuff that I'm teaching to my son all the time. Like, yeah, this has been here before. This is not new music. It's just something new elements have been added onto it, but none of this stuff is new.
Right.
We were rocking to this back when we were in grade school, son. Like this is
Well,
yep.
I like
So
that you giving the kids the education on that because,
yes, sir.
yeah, know
Yep.
that, you know.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. And there's so much that's being lost. Even with the information that's being fed to them now, like it's so much stuff that's being left out. That's important. So I feel like it's our responsibility, man, like teach the youth, man, like because if you're gonna depend on these institutions to do it, they're gonna be lost for real.
yeah. Yeah. I want to
Yep.
ask you, how do you feel about R&B artists biopics? I mean, I have a way that I feel about rappers biopics. I just want everybody,
Uh-huh.
if you make a movie about any artist, whether they were rock and roll, rap,
Hmm.
R&B, I just want you to tell the real story, how it
That's
really
it.
happened. Don't put the fluff
Exactly.
in it. Don't try to,
Hmm.
make it for entertainment purposes. So you got to
Hmm.
put a couple of embellishments in it. No, keep it
Yeah.
original. Keep it
Yep.
as it happened. A couple of biopics that I know that's coming out.
Hmm.
Marvin Gaye, which will be done by the Hughes brothers. Uh,
Yeah. Yep.
and that's a cold one right there.
Yes, sir.
And it's another artist that got a biopic. Damn, I can't remember. But how do you feel about the R&B biopics because in recent years we've seen Whitney Houston, we've seen Elvis, we've seen I think the Michael
Yep.
Jackson will come out next year.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mike Jackson will come out next year.
Interview. Yep.
Uh, so how do you feel
I don't.
about the R&B biopics?
It all. It's a case by case basis with me. If the people that own, if the family or people that's close to the people who they're doing it on are cool with it, I got no way to judge. But if you don't own the rights to it, or even if you bought the rights off somebody, if you're not gonna do it justice, don't do that. Tarnish that person's name with a bunch of lies and embellishments. Like, don't do that stuff. And we've seen good biopics that, even though some of that stuff was done, it told a good story, but we still know that not to be true. In which case, those tend to be less entertaining in my eyes, or whatever. I like stuff that's rooted in truth more than anything, because that's the stuff that's gonna resonate and stick with me at the end of the day, especially if there's a lesson to be learned. You know what I mean? So but overall, not to get too technical with it, yeah, it's always hit or miss with me. It's always hit or miss. It just depends. Like for the Tupac story, for example, we've seen so many different ones before they actually got it somewhat right. It kind of like lost its luster for me in a sense. But this new Luther one that's coming out, I'm super excited to see it because I don't think one has ever been done to date on Luther, and he's been gone how long? Like
2005 or six, something like that.
yeah, well over 25 years. Got to be well over 25 years, and to still be revered and talked about in the light that he does still to this day. Like yeah, and I know we got a lot more to come, a lot more artists that are worthy of that kind of celebration and worthy of that look also, whatever. And I hope so. I hope this is a sign of things to come. But to answer your question in general, like it's hit or miss with me. Always hit or miss.
That's what's up, man.
Mhm.
Well, before we get up out of here, is there anything that you would like to say to anybody? Anything that you would like to promote?
First and foremost, I want to shout out my hometown, Beaumont, Texas. Man, I wouldn't be the person I am today if it wasn't for that town, man. Just because I'm not there, don't think I don't hold it no more, or I'm never repping it, because Lord knows that I am. On top of that, I want to shout you out, Cornbread, for being a day one solid individual, the same dude you was back in the day. As a kid, running around Oldham and running around streets on Westmoreland and Waverly. You know what I'm saying? That you are right now, bro. And to me, and if you ask me, that's a blessing, bro. God, kudos to you and yours. Also, let me shout out my partners who might see this later on, my co-hosts, On Key and Kirk Quinn, my Vibes and Convo brothers. Go check out that Vibes and Convo playlist that we got on Spotify. We updating that bad boy every week with new music. If you're an R&B head or you feeling for R&B music that's good and thorough, we did the work for you already. Just tap in. Also, check out our Vibes and Convo show on YouTube every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time and 6 p.m. Oh, I'm sorry, 3 p.m. Eastern Time and 12 p.m. Pacific.
No doubt, man.
Yes,
I
sir.
appreciate
Oh,
I
and shout
appreciate
out you
you.
and yours, man. Shout out you and yours out there, man. I know you're holding it down, man.
I appreciate it, brother. I appreciate you having time to talk to me, and I hope that we get to do it again. You know what I'm
Oh, definitely,
saying?
definitely, definitely. And
You
you
know,
gotta come on my platform too, Brad. You gotta come on
yeah,
ours too, man.
yeah.
Yeah,
I can
yeah,
just let me
yeah. I
know.
know you can. You can talk this R&B stuff. I know you can. Yeah, I know you rap and everything, but I know you know your stuff. So, yeah, you can come
Yeah,
on.
I just studied all music. You know what I'm saying? I mean, through the
Exactly.
course of being a rapper, it led me to study and kind of trace all music. You know what I'm saying? Listen
Already.
to everything and learn
Yes, sir.
this, learn that, and
Yes,
I done met a couple of R&B artists myself, and was
sir.
quite surprised. Was
Uh huh.
quite surprised. Some of them, you just I mean, when I lived in Houston for 14 years, so
Okay.
throughout that course of time, I had met a lot of people that I did not expect to meet, like
Mhm.
For instance, there was this they had this hip hop summit where they were trying to get everybody to vote. It wasn't a
Yeah.
concert, it was just
Uh,
a summit where all these celebrities and superstars were coming and basically telling everybody to register to vote. But
yeah.
it was like Beyonce there. I wasn't there when she was there. It was too many people there.
Yeah.
But I did get a
Uh,
chance. I did get a chance to meet Jim Jones. I did get a
okay.
chance to see Kanye. This is when Kanye had the backpack, college dropout.
Yeah, yeah. Early Kanye. Gotcha.
Yeah, so
All right.
that and it was a number of people. It was a lot of, and then throughout the course of living in Houston, I was fortunate enough to meet Big Hawk, rest in peace.
Hell yeah. Rest in peace.
Big Mo, rest in peace.
Yeah.
Uh, you know,
Motorola.
I had a chance to chop it up with Trey the Truth several
Yes.
times.
Hell
Uh,
yeah.
I did get to meet Slim once.
Okay.
I always ran in the bun because I was working at Reliant, and they would come through there to watch the games. So,
Yeah.
fans and say what's up, and that was cool. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I might have to write a book on my journey. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
all
You gonna hey, Brad, hey, Brad, hey, for what I know already, yeah, definitely, definitely book worthy. So I can only imagine what other chapters you gonna add in there for the rest, bro. 100,
yeah.
baby. Hell yeah,
Man,
man.
well, on behalf of the homie Tim, I
Yeah,
am Cornbread Capone. This is Unpopular Honesty, the home of brutal honesty and real hip hop music. And until next time, everybody, peace and
yeah.
love, because that's what the world need in a major way.
That's
Peace
up.
and
Yeah.
love.
Peace and love, y'all. Duke or die.
I appreciate it, man.